My apartment building had recently been purchased by a new landlord and was undergoing a much-needed renovation, since it was an old building that was built sometime in the 1920s. This is relevant due to the fact that the construction workers would sometimes, foolishly, leave the front door of the building wide open with the lock removed, which allowed trespassers to waltz right in. I was home alone, now 18 years old in college, snowed in during the middle of winter. I was watching episodes of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart on Hulu on my bed in the living room when I hear the sound of keys jiggling near the door and the sound of a key going through the lock. Thinking it was my mom, who was coming home from work, I thought nothing of it, until the sound persisted. Confused, I called out, "Mom?" The sound stopped, but then continued again. I call out, "Mom, you need help?" The sound still persisted. The door was to my immediate left of my bed, and I was beginning to get a bit unnerved and suspicious. I very quietly got up out of my bed and went to the peephole to see some Asian guy trying to pick the lock. I could almost feel my thyroid swell with adrenaline, and I started thinking fast, while still admittedly being scared as well. I hastily went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife, and then stomped towards the door, not hiding my presence anymore. Before I could even do anything, I heard him bolting down the stairs. Funny thing about our apartment door, though, is that the door has 3 locks on it, 2 of which were broken and not used to actually lock the door, the ones he was trying. I guess the guy didn't notice the lock towards the bottom below the other 2 locks, so luck was on my side here. However, the story doesn't end here. A few months later, there is now scaffolding around the inner courtyard of the apartment building, where workers were now rebricking and repainting the facade of our side of the building. The scaffolding was so thorough that they were basically up against the windows of the building. This will be important later. My mom and I had now moved downstairs to a newly renovated apartment, and it was now spring. One night, my mom looked out the window from our new kitchen and quickly killed the lights. I joined in quietly to see what was going on, and I see a cop with a flashlight looking around the courtyard, around the scaffolding, and I notice him picking up a wallet from the ground. He radios it in, and I could have swore that I saw the light from his flashlight illuminate a splatter of blood on the ground. I didn't know about this until the end of the year, but my Italian neighbor, who lived in the building since the 80s and now lived across the hall from me, told me that some junkie used the scaffolding around my building to get to her window and was trying to break in. Thankfully, her windows were locked, and she happened to be sleeping near that very window, so she caught him quickly. The guy tried to make a run for it, but the guy ended up falling a good 20 through 30 feet onto hard concrete and limped away. He was found by the police on the corner of my block, where he had died from his injuries. She and I both think that it was likely the same guy who tried to pick my lock just months before.
This is one of the most horrifying experiences of my entire life. I was 17 years old at the time and still in high school as a senior. I was hanging out with a girl who was my friend with benefits, and well, we hung around Coney Island for a bit and then we went back to her apartment. After a while, she decided to walk me to the Bay 50th train station on the D line. This, again, will be very important later, as this train station is deep in a part of Gravesend where there is a lot of blood and Crips activity, typical Brooklyn. She and I kissed each other goodbye and we went our separate ways for the night. I walked up to the station, swiped my Metro card, and walked through the turnstiles. I see these 2 big guys and one of them intentionally bumps into me. My dumb 17-year-old brain made me say, "Yo, what the fuck, man?" Mind you, I was 6'4" at the time and these guys still towered over me, and I'm also white in a mostly black neighborhood, which wasn't out of the ordinary for me since I'm originally from the Lower East Side in Manhattan. But that was likely why I was targeted, maybe. After a short altercation, I just gave them the finger and went upstairs to the platform to get on my train. For some reason, I decided to go to the darker southern edge of the platform, where it was dimly lit so I could see the view of Coney Island and the parachute jump against the dying sunset. It was a beautiful sight to see, and I swear I thank myself every day for going to see the view from a part of the station I literally never stood at because of what happened next. I hear one of the guys coming up the stairs, about 40 to 60 feet away, and yelling, "So you want to talk shit now, huh? Where you at?" I swiftly but quietly ran to hide behind a big garbage can, with the darkness of the night and the lack of lighting completely shielding me. What I saw, though, as I went to go hide still gives me shivers and scares me to this day. The guy now had a gun, and so did his friend. I'm atheist, but thank God that they decided to check the opposite and more well-lit part of the station, the spot where I usually wait for the train. Oh fuck, I think to myself. They were going to rob me at the very least, but their tone sounded predatory. My fight-or-flight response is now screaming, leaning more towards flight because you don't fight unarmed against two armed guys. You just don't. My fear is almost quickly mixed with sadness, due to the fact that I had lied to my mom about being at school taking care of a few things. I was thinking to myself, my mom is never going to find me, most likely. Same with my sister. They think I'm at school. Oh shit. The guys are now almost at the other edge of the station, and I had to think fast. I couldn't run to the stairs and bolt out of the station because they would definitely hear me and chase me down. By some massive stroke of luck, I could see the Coney Island-bound D-train approaching the station far into the distance, about 2 to 3 minutes away. However, I was on the Manhattan-bound side of the station, the opposite side from where the D-train was coming, cornered, with no rational solution left. I decided to go with the only irrational one I could think of. I planned to go down the tracks and climb over about 4 lanes worth of them so I could get to the other platform across from me and onto the train that was arriving. One thing about this station, it's an elevated station. The tracks are about 50 to 70 feet above the ground, and the tracks have an electrified third rail that can kill anything that touches it. I don't know how I managed to climb over the tracks without falling to my death, tripping, touching the third rail, or even getting caught by the armed thugs or the train workers nearby, but I managed to, and the train came just in time. I had escaped death by an inch, but I wasn't fully out of the woods yet. I was now heading towards Coney Island, the final step on the D train, and opposite of where I'm supposed to go. I could have just stayed on the train and waited for it to go the other way, but I was scared that the guys would search the train for me. So I transferred to the N train and hightailed it back to my neighborhood. My parents still don't know about this nearly happening to me, and I never seen those guys again. It's really amazing what the human mind can do when you're really pushed and scared. When I told my friend about it a few months later, she thunderslapped me dead in the face, and honestly, I fully deserved it. I could have very easily gotten myself killed and caused my friends and family unbelievable pain.
This story occurred when I was 16 and living in a small town on the East Coast. Some things worth noting. I have always looked young for my age, and I've always had a petite build. I'm also disabled. I was born with 1.5 fingers on my right hand, and my left arm only extends to just past my shoulder. Despite my disability, I've always been very adept at fitting in, and have always had a really good group of friends and family who love and protect me. I'm usually a happy person, but when I was 16, I was going through a lot and began shutting down emotionally. I became very introverted. I was homeschooled. I had private tutors come to my house, so I didn't get to see my friends during the week. It was pretty rough, and I was kind of lonely. But I also contributed to my own loneliness by choosing to go out less and less. Like I said, I was going through a hard time in life. Because I wasn't seeing my friends during the week, I started to reach out online and spent my time reading LiveJournal or going into chat rooms to talk to strangers. Most times, I would do this at night. I didn't tell anyone my real name at first. My parents were constantly warning me about online predators, so I chose to play it safe and came up with a nickname in chat rooms. I didn't send pictures of myself or anything either. I thought I'd struck it gold in finding these chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo. This was like having tons of new, older friends who would talk to you for hours. And as time went on, I started to lower my guard a bit. First, I started telling people my real name. Then, I started telling people which state I lived in. I was friendly with almost everyone in the chat room, and kept my conversations within the chat room, until I started to meet people who wanted to PM me. I was stupid enough to believe that all these guys would be decent if I just kept on being decent. Most of them were just bored, but a few really stuck out to me as creepy, and I quickly learned how to start blocking people. As time went on, I became more and more confident and didn't even consider how easy it was for these guys to get information from me. Information about my family, my friends, my life. However, after a few creepy conversations with one guy, he tried to give me his number. He was in his late 20s, but I had questions about life and religion, and who better to ask than an older person with life experience? Looking back, I pretty much walked into a trap. I was very naive. I had agreed to talk to him on the mic. He said hi and talked about life, but early on in our conversation, he started saying things like, "You sound so cute. Are you really 16? You sound younger." I've always been really self-conscious about looking younger. Sometimes when you look younger, people don't take you seriously. They treat you like a child if you look like a child. I was 16, so technically I was a child, but I wanted to be taken seriously and not be seen as cute. "Oh, everybody says that. Yes, I'm 16. But he wouldn't stop. He kept on asking me to send him pictures or to turn on my webcam. Thankfully, I didn't have a webcam at the time. He started calling me sweetheart and baby when messaging me. I felt odd, but decided to ignore it and focus on sticking to the main topic whenever I talked to him. But when he wouldn't stop, he started to get possessive. For instance, when I wouldn't PM him, but would go into the main chat room to talk, he would read through everyone's chat messages, but wouldn't contribute anything until I said something about how I was logging off. Then, as if he's been waiting for that exact moment, he'd suddenly PM me saying, "You did good tonight. Good girl. Stay smart, baby. I'm glad I found you first." It made me feel like he was watching me, without even knowing what I looked like. Then, he found my LiveJournal and my MySpace. When he found them, he didn't friend request me, but he let me know that he'd found them and now knew what I looked like and what I wrote online. That was it. I was beyond creeped out and stopped using AIM. I actually pulled out of my depression when I finally turned off my computer and went outside. I started hanging out with friends, and it was really nice to feel like a normal teenager again. I didn't really have any desire to return to the chat rooms after that. About 2 months after I stopped wasting my life online, I was home with my sister one night. Our mom was out visiting a friend who lived close by, but we didn't expect her back for a while. It was around 10 o'clock at night, and I was in my bedroom in the basement. Both my sister's bedroom and my bedroom were in the basement. Her room was on the other end though, while mine was closest to the basement door. There's a large family room and a long hallway that separates our bedrooms. Our basement door, which was about 15 feet away from my bedroom, opened up to the patio that led to our backyard and the woods. The light was on outside, and we live in a small, mostly crime-free neighborhood. I didn't have any reason to feel scared. I was reading and listening to music, with all the lights on. I was coming out of my room to brush my teeth when I happened to casually glance at the basement door. Our basement door wasn't solid. You could look through a diamond-shaped section of glass. Most of the glass was frosted, but at the very center of the diamond, you could see right into our basement. My mouth went dry, and my heart just about leaped out of my chest. There was a silhouette of a man right outside of the door. He wasn't standing. He was on one knee, looking into the center of the diamond. He was just kneeling there like a statue. Even though the back deck lights were on, I couldn't see his face since the patio lights were not on. He was just a dark silhouette. I could tell he had long, curly hair, and I could tell that he was tall, but that's really all I could see. Then, I realized something else. I couldn't see him, but he could see all of me. My lights were on, and the lights from the hallway were casting light on my face. He could see everything. He could see my body. He could see my face. He could see my fear. He just knelt there as if he was watching a show, not moving. I was the show. I could feel his eyes on me. I was terrified. I tried to move, but found that I was paralyzed. I remember thinking, he's going to break the glass in that door and kill me. I tried to run. I tried to breathe, but it felt like I had no air in my lungs, and my feet felt like cement. My sister was in bed on the opposite end of the basement, but I couldn't even call out to her. I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he bolted. He literally leapt up, and I heard him jump over our back fence. His quick movement jerked me into motion, and I suddenly found my legs could move. I raced down the hallway into the family room that was just outside of my sister's room. I was freaking out as I woke her up and told her that somebody was watching me. She was half asleep, but she told me to call our mom. 3 things happened after that. I crossed the room to call my mom. My dog started barking ferociously, and I heard the sound of heavy footsteps crossing our back deck. That guy was on our back deck. I could just picture him breaking into the kitchen and then killing my dogs before killing my sister and me. I felt helpless. I couldn't defend my sister or myself. I started crying. I was so scared. My sister thought I was overreacting and tried to get me to stop crying. She hadn't heard anything. We used to have a lot of friends that would sneak over to our house whenever our mom was out, so she thought it was one of them. But it didn't feel like it was. This person felt different. I had felt his stare, and I had felt his enjoyment at seeing my terrified face looking back at him. This felt evil. Looking back, I should have called the police, not my mom, but I was panicking, and I wanted to hear my mom's voice at that moment. I picked up the phone and began dialing. But just as the phone rang, I saw lights in the driveway. My mom was home. I ran upstairs, let both the dogs outside, and they both disappeared up the street into the darkness. They were both barking and howling very loud. Like I said, both were small dogs, but they were loyal dogs. I immediately ran to my mom and told her that someone was lurking about. She ushered me back inside, and by that time both dogs were now back, so we all went inside and locked the doors. I felt safe with my mom there, but the whole experience had really shaken me up. I don't know who the creep was that came to my house to kneel outside my door and stare at me that night. I don't know what he wanted, or why. 3 years before this, I had a scare where a person followed me home after I stupidly snuck out on my own. But who knows if the 2 experiences were related. I also wonder if someone found me from online. I was stupid enough to share real information with at least 3 people online, and I always thought that maybe it was the guy who was obsessed with me for sounding so young. I never told my parents about my online activity, but I probably should have. I deleted MySpace and LiveJournal, and stayed away from chat rooms after that. It might feel fun or safe at first, but you never know who you're really inviting into your life. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. I'd like to give a big thank you to Dr. Horror for helping me out on this collaboration. This has definitely been long overdue. If you didn't catch our other collaboration video over on Dr. Horror's channel, I'll have a link in the description, as well as in the comments and on the screen. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.